High Observator Kexvin stood before the Great Archive's crystalline display, their four eyes fixed on the dancing holographic representation of yet another dying star. After 12,000 cycles of watching the cosmos, the Varens had documented the death of millions of stars. Each one followed the same immutable patterns: the swelling, the ejection of stellar matter, and finally, the beautiful but devastating release of energy that marked the end of a star's life. But this one was different. "Show me the temporal comparison again," Kexvin commanded, their voice resonating through the chamber's acoustic crystals. The AI complied, projecting two sequences side by side: the expected decay pattern of a Class 4 red giant and the actual readings from star system KV 89,372. "The variance grows larger with each passing cycle," noted Junra, their youngest apprentice. The slender alien scales shifted from deep blue to a troubled green as they manipulated the holographic controls. The star's core temperature should be increasing, but instead, it's stabilizing. Kexvin's facial frills rippled with concern. The Varens had built their civilization on the principle that the universe followed predictable patterns. Their mathematical models could predict stellar events down to the smallest detail. Their entire society was structured around observation and documentation, not intervention. They were the watchers, the record keepers, the ones who preserved the knowledge of how stars lived and died. "Expand the scan radius," Kexvin ordered. "Show me all similar anomalies within 50 light-years of KV 89,372. The holographic display expanded, filling the chamber with points of light. Then, one by one, red markers began to appear, 3 at first, then 7, then 12, each marking a dying star that wasn't following the natural order. "Impossible," Junrai whispered, their scales now almost white with shock. "The statistical probability of this many simultaneous anomalies is effectively zero," Kexvin finished. They'd reached out with his 6-fingered hand, touching one of the marked stars. The display zoomed in, showing detailed readings. Unless what? High Observator. Kexvin's secondary hearts beat faster as they considered the implications. In 12,000 cycles of watching the stars, the Varens had never encountered evidence of another spacefaring civilization advanced enough to affect stellar dynamics. They had seen plenty of primitive species, of course, barely able to reach their own moons. But this was something else entirely. "Unless someone is interfering with the natural stellar life cycle," Kexvin said slowly. "Junra, initiate deep space scanning protocols. Focus on the space around these anomalous stars. Look for artificial structures, energy signatures, anything that doesn't belong." As Junra worked, Kexvin moved to the archive's central platform. Around them, the accumulated knowledge of countless generations of Varen observers swirled in crystalline matrices. Their ancestors had built this vast repository of knowledge with the belief that understanding the universe was their species' highest calling. But now, for the first time in their long history, they were facing something their careful observations couldn't explain. The scanning results began to come in. At first, there was nothing unusual, just the expected background radiation and stellar matter. But then, around the 8th star in their survey, something appeared. The holographic display zoomed in, revealing a structure that definitely wasn't natural. A massive lattice of some unknown material, partially enclosing the dying star. By the first observers, Junra breathed. "High Observator, this structure. It appears to be absorbing the star's excess energy output. It's actually affecting the stellar core's decay rate." Kexvin's scales shifted through a rainbow of colors as they processed this revelation. Their species had spent millennia believing they were alone in their level of advancement, content to watch and record the universe's grand patterns. But now someone, was out there, not just watching the stars die, but actively working to change their fate. "Send word to the High Council," Kexvin commanded, their voice carrying the weight of history. Tell them. Tell them the age of mere observation is over. We are no longer alone in watching the stars die, and whoever these beings are, they have not accepted the natural order as we have. They are trying to change it. As Junrei hurried to comply, Kexvin remained before the holographic display, watching the strange structure slowly harvest the dying star's energy. In all their years of observation, they had never imagined they would witness something like this. Their people had built their entire civilization around the principle of non-intervention, of accepting the universe as it was. But somewhere out there, another species had looked at the same dying stars and decided to do something about it. The question now was, what would the Varens do with this knowledge? Continue their role as passive observers, or acknowledge that the universe they had watched for so long was about to change forever? The answer, Kexvin suspected, would reshape their civilization in ways they could barely imagine. The Great Archive's emergency session stretched into its third rotation. Kexvin's scales itched from the prolonged exposure to dry air, but they couldn't leave, not when the holographic displays kept revealing more impossible discoveries. Another one, announced Telmaz, their senior data analyst. The aged Varen's tendrils trembled as they manipulated the controls. Binary system RK 12095. Both stars showing the same stabilization pattern. The chamber erupted in agitated color waves as the assembled observers' scales flickered through shades of anxiety. In the past 30 rotations, they had identified 47 stellar engineering sites. Each one demonstrated the same technological signature: massive energy collection arrays partially enclosing dying stars, somehow stabilizing their decay while harvesting immense amounts of power. "The pattern is becoming clear," Kexvin said, manipulating the galactic display. Red markers connected with glowing lines, forming a rough sphere of activity. They're working their way outward from a central point. This isn't random. It's systematic expansion. Junra, who hadn't left their mentor's side since the discovery, overlaid the movement patterns of known spacefaring species. "High Observator, look at this. The expansion zone doesn't match any known migration patterns. These beings, they're moving faster than should be possible." Kexvin's primary heart skipped a beat. The young observer was right. Whatever species was building these massive structures, they were covering distances that the Varens had long considered impossible to traverse within a single lifetime. "Show me the nearest active construction site," Kexvin commanded. The display shifted, focusing on a red giant designated KL 44601. The massive star was already showing signs of intervention, but the engineering array was only partially complete. "We have a chance," Kexvin announced, their scales shifting to the deep purple of determination. "If we dispatch an observation vessel now, we could reach KL 44601 before the construction is complete. We could finally see these beings in action." The chamber fell silent. In 12,000 cycles, no Varen vessel had ever been dispatched with the explicit purpose of observing an active alien civilization. Their ships were research vessels, designed to take detailed readings of natural phenomena. What drives them? Kexvin wondered aloud. What makes a species look at a dying star and decide to change its fate? They had a feeling they would soon find out. As they turned to leave, the display behind them updated automatically, adding 3 more red markers to the growing constellation of impossible achievements. Somewhere out there, beings with the power to reshape stars were waiting to be discovered. And the Varens, for the first time in their history, were going to do more than just watch. The Eternal Observer dropped out of faster-than-light transit at the edge of the KL 44601 system, its sensors immediately overwhelmed by the scale of what they discovered. The dying red giant at the system's heart was now surrounded by a partial sphere of interlocking structures that dwarfed anything the Varens had ever built. "Energy readings are off our established scales," Junra reported, their scales rippling with awe. "The containment field it's not just collecting energy. It's actively redirecting stellar matter flows." Kexvin floated in the observation bubble, all four eyes fixed on the massive construction. Countless smaller vessels swarmed around the structure like insects tending a hive, each one precisely coordinated in an intricate dance of construction. "They're Beichtel," Telmas announced suddenly, focusing their long-range imaging systems on one of the construction vessels. "Atmospheric environment, carbon-based. They're from a heavy-gravity world." Before Kexvin could respond, their ship's communications array lit up with an incoming signal. The universal translator took only moments to decode it. "Varen Vessel Eternal Observer, this is the Human Solar Engineering Corps vessel Hawking. Welcome to Project Lightkeeper. We've been expecting you." The bridge crew's scales flickered in surprise. The beings, humans, were not only aware of their arrival, but had been waiting for them. Kexvin activated their ship's transmitter. "Hawking, this is High Observator Kexvin. You knew we would come." A sound came through the translator that it identified as laughter. "We've been watching you watch us, High Observator. Your observation posts are quite thorough. We figured it was only a matter of time before curiosity got the better of you." The human vessel approached, dwarfing the Eternal Observer despite being what appeared to be a relatively small part of their fleet. Its design was unlike anything in the Varen archives, all sharp angles and efficient lines, built for purpose rather than aesthetic harmony. "We would be honored to show you our work," the human continued. "That is why you came, isn't it? To see how we're doing the impossible." Hours later, Kexvin and a small team stood in what the humans called an observation lounge, their environment suits allowing them to share space with the oxygen-breathing species. Captain Sarah Chen, their host, was explaining the project with an enthusiasm that made her biological readings spike with elevated heat patterns. "The star's core was destabilizing," she explained, pointing to holographic representations that floated between them. Traditional models gave it less than 1,000 years before supernova. But we found a way to siphon off the excess energy while simultaneously reinforcing the stellar magnetic field structure. "But why?" Junrei asked, their scales shifting to show their confusion. "Why interfere with the natural stellar life cycle?" Chen's expression changed in a way the Varen's emotional recognition software couldn't quite categorize. "Because we had to. Earth, our homeworld, is facing an energy crisis that threatens our entire civilization. We needed a solution that could power our expansion for millennia to come. So we looked to the stars that were already dying and thought, why waste all that energy?" "But the resources required," Kexvin interjected, "the technological challenges were immense." Chen finished. "We failed hundreds of times before we got it right, lost good people in the process. But humans, we don't give up easily, especially when failure means extinction." She led them to another viewport, this one showing the massive energy collection arrays in action. Each Lightkeeper facility can power 1,000 worlds for 10,000 years. We're not just saving our civilization, we're building the foundation for something greater. A network of stellar engineering projects that could sustain multiple species, multiple civilizations. Kexvin's scales shifted to deep blue, the color of profound realization. "You're not just solving your own crisis. You're preparing for others to join you." Chen smiled. "Exactly. The universe is vast, but it doesn't have to be lonely or dark. Every star we save is another light kept burning in the cosmos, another chance for life to flourish." She turned to face them directly. "That's why we made our work visible to your people. We hoped you would come. Your observational data spans millennia. It could help us identify prime candidates for the next phase of Project Lightkeeper." The implications hit Kexvin like a gravity wave. These humans weren't just asking for observers, they were offering partnership. A chance for the Varens to do more than watch and record. A chance to help shape the future of the galaxy itself. "Of course," Chen added, "we have much to learn from you as well. Your understanding of stellar physics, your long-term observational data. Together, we could do more than either of our species could achieve alone." As Kexvin looked out at the massive structure cradling the dying star, they realized their civilization stood at a turning point. For millennia, they had been the Watchers, the record keepers. Now they had a chance to be something more. The question was, were they ready to take that step? The emergency alert pierced through the combined human-Varan research facility orbiting star KL 44601. Captain Chen burst into the central observatory where Kexvin and Junra were analyzing data streams from the latest stellar stabilization attempt. Betelgeuse is destabilizing, Chen announced, her face grave. The core collapse is accelerating far faster than our models predicted. We have less than 6 months. Kexvin's scales shifted to pale gray, the color of dread. Betelgeuse was no ordinary star. Its immense size and relative proximity to both Earth and the primary Varan worlds meant its supernova would affect dozens of inhabited systems. "Show me," they commanded, their tendrils activating the holographic display. The massive red supergiant appeared before them, its violent convulsions now visible even to the naked eye. The star's core was consuming itself at an unprecedented rate. "Our current containment technology won't be enough," Junra said, their scales flickering anxiously as they ran simulations. "The energy output would overwhelm even our most advanced arrays." Chen nodded grimly. "That's why I'm here. The Human Solar Engineering Corps is proposing something we've never tried before, something that could either save billions of lives or make things catastrophically worse." She uploaded a new set of specifications to the holographic display. Kexvin's 4 eyes widened as they studied the design. "This isn't just a containment array. You're proposing to rebuild the star from the inside out," Chen finished. "Using a combination of your stellar manipulation theories and our engineering capabilities, we think we can not just prevent the supernova, but actually rejuvenate Betelgeuse's core." The room fell silent. In the 3 years since humans and Varans had begun working together, they had successfully stabilized 17 dying stars. But what Chen was proposing was orders of magnitude more complex. "The risk factors are enormous," Junra pointed out, their scales now showing bands of calculating purple. "If the containment field fails during the process, the resulting explosion would be no worse than what will happen if we do nothing," Chen countered. She manipulated the display, showing the projected damage radius of an uncontrolled Betelgeuse supernova. "We're talking about the potential death of trillions, the destruction of dozens of civilizations. We have to try." Kexvin moved through the holographic display, their tendrils touching each data point, each calculation. Their people had spent millennia believing that the death of stars was inevitable, natural, proper. But working with humans had taught them something profound. Sometimes the natural order needed to be challenged. "We'll need to modify the containment field harmonics," they said finally. "The Varan Grand Archives contain records of similar stellar events from our early history. If we combine that data with your engineering approaches..." Chen's face broke into a fierce smile. "That's why we need both our species on this. Your knowledge, our determination. Together, we might just pull off the impossible." The next 5 months were a blur of activity. The largest fleet ever assembled, both human and Varan vessels, converged on Betelgeuse. The construction of the massive engineering arrays proceeded around the clock, with crews working in shifts to complete the largest stellar engineering project in known history. Kexvin and Chen barely slept, coordinating the effort from the central control facility. They had one chance to get this right. The slightest miscalculation could doom entire civilizations. Final component locked in place, Junra reported, their scales now a steady blue of focused concentration. "Array power levels at maximum capacity. We're ready to begin the core restructuring sequence." Chen looked at Kexvin, her expression both determined and uncertain. "Once we start, there's no going back. Are you sure about this?" Kexvin's scales rippled with a complex pattern of colors: fear, hope, determination, and something else. Something they had learned from their time working with humans. Courage. Our ancestors were content to watch stars die, they said. But you taught us that there's another way. That with enough knowledge, determination, and courage, even the death of a star can be overcome. Their tendrils moved to the activation controls. We do this together. Chen nodded, placing her hand next to Kexvin's tendrils. Together then. For both our peoples. For everyone counting on us. As they initiated the sequence, Betelgeuse blazed before them, its massive bulk shuddering as the combined might of two civilizations prepared to attempt the impossible, not just to prevent a star's death, but to give it new life. The real question was, would it be enough? The combined control center fell silent as the first wave of energy from Betelgeuse hit the containment array. Holographic displays flickered with readings that pushed the boundaries of both human and Varan measurement systems. The massive star pulsed with energy that could annihilate worlds. Primary containment field holding at 87%. Junra reported, their scales flickering between focus blue and tension white. Core temperature, still rising. Captain Chen's knuckles were white as she gripped the control console. Redirect power from sections 3 through 7. We need to strengthen the Northern Hemisphere containment. Kexvin's tendrils danced across the controls, implementing the changes. Around Betelgeuse, the massive engineering array. A joint creation of human ingenuity and Varan knowledge, glowed with absorbed energy. It was by far the largest structure ever built by either civilization, a lattice of advanced materials and field generators that wrapped the dying star like a cocoon. Secondary fusion reaction initiating, Chen announced, her voice tense. This is it, the moment of truth. The plan they had developed was audacious, using the contained energy of Betelgeuse's partial collapse to trigger a controlled fusion reaction that would restructure the star's core. If it worked, it would not only prevent the supernova but actually rejuvenate the ancient star. If it failed, billions would die. Suddenly, the readings spiked. Betelgeuse flared with impossible brightness, straining against the containment field. Warning alarms blared throughout the facility. Containment field buckling in sectors 12 through 15. Junra's scales had gone completely white with panic. We're losing it. No, Chen's voice cut through the chaos. We didn't come this far to fail. Kexvin, remember the simulations. If we modulate the field frequency, we could ride the resonance wave. Kexvin finished, their tendrils already moving. Junra, prepare to execute pattern sigma on my mark. The containment field rippled, its energy patterns shifting to match the star's pulsations rather than fighting them. It was a technique born from the merger of Varan, stellar physics, and human wave dynamics theory. Never tested at this scale, but now their only hope. Pattern sigma. Executing. Now. The effect was immediate. The containment field stopped fighting Betelgeuse's energy and instead began channeling it, creating a feedback loop that drove the energy back into the star's core. The readings began to stabilize. Core reconstruction proceeding. Junra reported, their scales slowly shifting to hopeful green. Temperature curve matching theoretical models. It's working. Hours passed as they guided the process, making minute adjustments, watching as one of the galaxy's oldest stars was reborn before their eyes. When it was finally complete, Betelgeuse shone with a steady, healthy light, not the angry red of a dying giant, but the balanced glow of a star with millions of years of new life ahead of it. We did it. Chen's whisper broke the silence. We actually did it. She turned to Kexvin, tears in her eyes, a human expression of emotion that the Varan had learned to recognize. Your people's knowledge, our determination. Together, we achieved what neither of us could alone. Kexvin finished, their scales shimmering with joy gold and pride purple. This is more than just saving one star. We've proven it can be done. We can save them all. The implications were staggering. With this success, the joint human-Varan stellar engineering project could be expanded. Every dying star in the galaxy could potentially be saved, their energy harnessed, their lives extended. The age of watching stars die was over. The age of stellar renewal had begun. As news of their success spread across both civilizations, celebrations erupted on countless worlds. But in the control center, Chen and Kex Vin were already looking at star charts, planning their next project. "You know," Chen said thoughtfully, "my ancestors used to think the stars were gods, eternal and unchangeable. They would never have dreamed we could do something like this." Kex Vin's scales rippled with understanding. "And my ancestors believed their highest purpose was to watch and record. They never imagined we could reach out and change the very nature of stars themselves." They turned all four eyes to the renewed Betelgeuse. "Perhaps that is what our species needed all along, to find each other, to combine your courage to act with our patience to understand." Together, Chen agreed, "We're not just watching the universe anymore, we're helping it evolve." Outside the viewport, Betelgeuse shone steadily, its light carrying a promise across the galaxy. In the vast cosmic darkness, two species had come together to prove that even the death of stars was not inevitable. And in doing so, they had illuminated a path forward not just for themselves, but for all civilizations to come. The age of mere observation was over. The age of active hope had begun.